Hello and welcome back. I thought I'd start this off with a little bit of an introduction to how book games got introduced into my hypergraph. And it begins with the book 12 and a half. Now, I thought I'd give a shout out. We were looking for images, so we went over to Google Images and clicked on the first one, and it came to this book review. And I always like to give shout outs to good search engine optimization because it helps my life, and synchronistically, it usually denotates some level of good content. So I want to give a shout out to Marlo Yano Cruz. Now, this specifically was my hypergraph reference for Book Games. Now, what does that mean for me? That means I was just, a normal, everyday blockchain, cryptocurrency, market participant trying to understand, support and resistance and what's going on with my instrument or asset or cryptocurrency of choice, specifically Bitcoin. And from that perspective, it's okay. Well, Bitcoin is Bitcoin. They say the market, Bitcoin leads the market. So, based on the content creators that I consume, those tend to be kind of the areas of interest or the inertia in terms of its weight in relation to how I think about technical analysis. So, in this context, we're saying, oh my goodness, like NFTs, like oh my goodness, as a person within the cryptocurrency markets, even me, I'm like still with the general public in terms of after all the content that I've consumed, you'd think that I would be, you know, already onboarded in terms of okay, not your keys, not your crypto. But even me, it's taking a while to make that transition in terms of the ratios that I would like to have in terms of assets being traded with like on ledger versus in cold storage, etc. So when the concept of NFTs got introduced, and we're sitting here saying, okay, well, NFTs, to what extent is this like other things that we've experienced, like other cryptocurrencies? Like, okay, is this, to what extent is an NFT like Bitcoin is like Ethereum to Bitcoin, or is like Decentraland is to Ethereum, etc. And so I'm like, oh my goodness, then I have to move assets around on chain, off chain, into a wallet. I can't just do it on Coinbase. Oh my goodness, what's going on here? And I mean that really still still chips into my ability as a consumer to kind of engage in the markets in terms of onboarding, right? In many respects, they say, okay, so how do you mesh where Bitcoin is in terms of its market cycle in relation to the onboarding of the general public based on that ease of entry in terms of on ramps. That's why things stand out in terms of ETFs, or when different market participants get simpler, more efficient mechanisms to onboard different participants that otherwise wouldn't necessarily want to self custody, etc. etc. So pretty much all that was to say is that yeah, I'm a very lazy market participant. So when my friend told me that by just buying some books, I could get access to an NFT, I was like, "Oh wow, okay, that give I can take some fiat capital and convert that into an NFT." For me, I was like, "Whoa, that gives me some really nice market exposure without really having to dive that deep into it to that extent." And another benefit was that I wasn't necessarily as familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk beforehand, but in many respects, based on my own personal leanings in terms of technical analysis, this kind of stood out as a mechanism to say, oh wow, well in this case I can really focus on the underlying asset itself without really having to do that deep of a deep dive into the fundamental analysis that I would have to in, say, vetting other projects. Because I'm like, oh my goodness, I gotta, who are these people? Like, what's going on? At least in this context, I can say, I can weigh it as a reflection of Gary and his personal brand, but also the community, right? Because the community is gonna be able to operate in their own capacity as well as an interplay to the extent that it still merits its own level of liquidity, if that makes sense. So, from my perspective, I was like, oh wow, I don't even really have to worry about the fundamental analysis per se, because this allows me to kind of focus on the technical analysis while just getting a foot in the door by purchasing some books. So that's kind of my backstory. My friend was like, yo, check it out. I got some books and then I also got some book games. So that gave me access to a place that I never really, I mean, still to this day, I probably wouldn't have had an NFT within my own personal custodial power. And as a person that's this deep into the blockchain and cryptocurrency marketplace in terms of the content that I consume, I'm like, wow, it really speaks to me in the context of what that means as an onboarding process for members of the general population as they kind of get their feet wet during various market cycles as we kind of move into different areas of supply crunches with regards to the amount of the underlying available versus its weighted ratio in terms of fiat currency. Okay, so I think that kind of gives a pretty metastable overview. We were saying, okay, so how did we get into this? Like, how do we think about the marketplace? What was our origin story? We actually probably still would not own an NFT if not for this, but we actually took that leap of wait, let's choose a can we choose a curiosity? Absolutely. Curiosity, gratitude, and maybe conviction. And we were able to say, I am an NFT owner. And that was a really like positive experience for me because again, still probably wouldn't own an NFT. And yeah, so let's move into kind of what this channel is in terms of book games spectating. And we will pick that up in the next episode or video. Thank you.